I believe that white people are born into not being human. Like that actually, instead of people of color and black folks being dehumanized, that actually everyone is dehumanized off rip within white supremacy, that y'all are born into a life to not be human, and that's what y'all are taught to do, to be demons. So in this particular way, white people are all racist. So I just want y'all to know that up front.
White people's gonna be a minority, man. All your babies are gonna be brown and black. I'm telling you the truth. Brown and black, man. It's a beautiful thing. 2050, 2050, man. All your babies are gonna be brown and black. That's it, man. It's true. It's true.
Hello. It's been a while. Can you believe it's been 1 year since I've did a cooking with Love, Life and Anarchy? Well, what's going on? What's going on? Have you enjoying your week? Enjoying watching America slide into a civil war? Enjoying watching communists roam the streets and fascists fighting each other? Enjoying watching Black Lives Matter tear down Confederate statues and watch a cultural revolution appear before your very eyes on YouTube there and Twitter? I know I have been. Boy. Well, first of all, thank you for, if you haven't watched my Ask Me Anything video, I asked for people to sign up to my mailing list if you're interested in donating to me to keep up my YouTube channel. Got to 41 names entered their details in. Now I don't know if you 41 people are going to commit to that in a years from now and give me money, but I appreciate that, and it's on my mind. I'm gonna do it. But YouTube is just, cutting down people who don't agree with their policies, and PayPal's disconnecting people who don't agree with their policies. Patreon's already deleted me, and they've deleted Lawrence Southern. I'm sure if I go down more of a edgy route on YouTube, they'll do the same thing to me. So I'm really not sure what the future holds for YouTube. But it's something I'd like to do. But if the companies in San Francisco don't let me, don't let creators do their job, I don't see much point of doing it. But I appreciate your names. 41, that's a good result, I think. Yeah, last year I was petrified, and now I'm kind of used to all this terrorism, black violence, racial conflict, and political violence, and it's coming up around full tilt. It's like every day is a new development, and it's hard to keep track. Leftists is out of control. Black Lives Matter, tearing down statues, digging up corpses. I don't know what the fuck that's going on in their minds, but it reminds me of what they did in Spain when those red communists dug up nuns and other political leaders and show them off as corpses. I don't know. They're just fucking... If they haven't figured it out by now that these communists just need to be put down and just a bunch of animals, I don't know what's wrong with you. But unfortunately, the media seems to push this narrative along and declared themselves enemy of the free people and sided with the communists and want them to push them into a civil war, and it looks like they're succeeding. I was watching Charlotte as it was happening on my computer. I had like three streams going, but I was focused on Brittany Vendi's stream, out of all people. And if I was in the area, I probably would have gone to Unite the Right, meet some YouTuber personalities and see the people there, and to voice my concern that white people are being replaced and now history is being rewritten by communist agitators and Black Lives Matter for no good reason other than they want to see America destroyed. So yeah, I'd like to do my part and speak up against that if I was in the era, but alas, I'm in Australia and I can't really go there, but I was with you in spirit and I was watching the stream happen before my eyes. I saw everything. I saw the police just suddenly decide that you are unlawful and they wanted everyone to get kicked out. I saw the way Unite the Right was pushed into Antifa. I saw the street fights. I saw the violence. I saw the car running over people. It's almost like they did that on purpose, and it looks like it did do this on purpose. But while I was watching it, the Brittany Venti stream, I heard some people in the audience say, some people that were following her saying, yeah, I wasn't really up to date with the JQ question, Jewish question, but then I watched a video on YouTube, and then now my whole paradigm shifted, and I was like, did I watch my video? Did I just start a civil war in America? So I felt like somehow responsible for this. And the way the media is just calling everyone a white supremacist, a neo-Nazi, a white nationalist, it's like... we've become the enemy of the state. It's like we're the bad guys now. Why? Because I care about white people and Europe, and I don't want to see Europe and white people disappear and genocide like the Jews want us to do and the communists want to do. And it's becoming more and more real. Yeah, so it affected me personally. I couldn't sleep that day. I had my adrenaline kicking in. It's like seeing Christopher Cantwell, what they did to him, and a few other people, Bayes, Alaska, getting blinded. Oh, it hurts so much. It hurts so much. But it's nothing compared to what's going to happen to America if this behaviors keep going. I'm sure we all know that. So why would I have gone? Well, I'm into philosophy, economics, and history. And from that, I am an ANCAP. I think anarcho-capitalism, Hand Hopper, Rothbard got everything fucking right and sorted, and the morality there and economics there, and I think everyone just respected people's private property. And we didn't have a state, and people respected capitalism. We'd be living in a good society, or the most fairest, the most moral, the most most richest society we can handle. But unfortunately, people don't accept that. People called socialists and communists think we're the most evil people because we exploit people when we hire people and have the private means of production. These communist fucking filth think we owe them something. And I'm a capitalist as of a few years ago. Before, when I started out, I worked at McDonald's when I was 14. I was at McDonald's cooking burgers and shit for 6 years. Then I moved on to Big W, or Walmart, if it's called in America. And then working at these Pizza Hut jobs, and I'm like, I'm better than this. I can do more than this. And I learnt Flash, MX. I've learnt how to program. I learnt web design, and I started from a small design studios up until like working at a major advertising agencies in my 20s. And I was pretty proud about that. But I thought I could still do better than this. And I started my own business around, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. So I'm a capitalist. And according to this communist filth, I'm the bad guy because I'm part of the bourgeoisie class because I own the means of production. And because I pay people, I'm exploiting them somehow. And for that, I deserve to be in the gulag. That's the Marxist Jewish argument. And because I paid a voice actor to help me on the Bioshock presentation or hired developers and graphical artists to help me do projects I can't complete on my own, I'm literally the scum of the earth because I'm the capitalist. And the people who say it on YouTube, they're fine with other people doing it because if they're on the HH Bummer guy gets $5,000 a video or $4,000 a video, and he hires artists, writers, and everyone's cool with him because he's a leftist. But once people on the right do it, apparently that's a great evil, and we need to be purged and sent to gulags and our property expropriated and distributed towards the communist filth. Well, I don't appreciate that, and I don't like that. And I try to get any single communist I can talk to on the fucking Skypes, and no one's interested in talking with me. They all block me prematurely without even a response. So that's how it's going to be. And these same communist filth are cheering the violence. They're happy that Christopher Cantwell got sprayed and is probably in prison. They're happy that Bayes, Alaska got permanent eye damage. Basically, they want to see you fucking die, and they want to take your shit if you haven't figured it out by now, because they're biologically different to us and swallow the Jewish Marxist narrative. So it's a war. And when I looked into history, they did the same thing in the Soviets. The Bolshevik Revolution launched a civil war between the White Army and the Red Army. The Red Army were communists, and the White Army was made by people who were against communists, which includes Russian Orthodox, Christians, people who believed in the monarchy, just people who believe in monarchy, capitalism, who didn't want to see their society changed, and the Reds just call them fascists. They call them fascists now, the White Army. Same thing in Spain. When the Red Terror came and they started killing nuns and raping nuns and killing the priests and the monks and everyone in the clergy involved with the Christians, a lot of Spaniards didn't like that, and they had a counter-revolution, And the Reds call those guys fascists as well. It's like, if you don't agree with us, you're a fascist. If you don't agree with us raping nuns and stuff, you're a fascist. And this happened in Germany as well. They tried 2 communist revolutions in the Weimar Republic. And the people that stopped them were the Republic, for one. And then later, the Nazi Party, once they burnt down the Reichstag, the Parliament building. And they called them fascists. So everyone's literally a fascist. If you're not with them, you're a fascist. And like, okay, I see how it's done. Just these silly word games. And a lot of people who went to Unite the Right have YouTube channels and are YouTube personalities. And I enjoy listening to Christopher Cantwell. He's, like me, a narco-capitalist. But he also cares about white interests. And it's something I haven't really thought about until people started talking about white genocide, which is something that's legitimately happening. I live in Melbourne, CBD, and whites are a minority here. So whites used to be a majority in Australia. We had a very strict white Australian policy. And if you look at footage, what Melbourne looked like 20 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe not 10 years ago, maybe 20, 30 years ago, everything looks completely different. There's whites everywhere, not a brown or black or yellow person to be seen. And that changed when Jews pushed for multiculturalism. And the Jews that pushed for multiculturalism are living in Israel now. They're not living in Australia, so they're all pissed off. But now, I feel like a minority, because I am a minority. I have here, this was nice enough to deliver to me, to my unit apartment block. CBD is now one enormous Chinatown. Because it is. The stats here, more CBD residents were born in mainland China than any other country. Only 14% of people here were born in Australia, whereas 25% were born in China. 40% of people identify as being Chinese, not Australian. Mandarin is the top spoken language. So basically, whites are in a minority. English, not so hot here. And this is the new face of the CBD. Chinese people. Ms. Liu said the CBD Chinese population was growing so quickly that native Chinese speakers did not have to learn English to get by. My parents don't speak any English, and when they came to visit me, they were able to get around easily because there are many people speaking Mandarin here. Here's a nice sentence. Now, when I walk along Swanston Street, which is a major street, it's like walking in Wangfujing in Belgium, likening the bustling Swanston Street to Beijing's business shopping strip. Yeah, you feel that. If you ever come down to CBD, it's Chinatown. And another 10, 20 years of this, there's not going to be a white identity in Melbourne, which is odd because there used to be a white identity, a very strong white identity. And it's something I'm not happy with. Like, I don't want to live in China. If I wanted to live in China, I'd go to China and live there. I want to live in Australia, which is the Paul Hogan or the crocodile hunter, white Australia. And it feels like that's being taken away from me by some fucking Jews. I'm not too happy about that. What's worse is that I pay a lot of taxes. I paid something like $15,000 worth of taxes last year, all in one go because I'm a business, and that hurt a fucking lot. And it's going to immigrants. They're teaching immigrants they're subsidizing immigrants. And feminist groups. There's a feminist coding group, front-end developers, which is what I do, a part of what I do. And the government are subsidizing them because they're females, and they want to balance the gender gap between developers. They're literally forcing me to pay money to pay my competitors to push me out of the market because I'm a male. And it makes me so fucking angry. And white men just don't have a voice. They don't give a shit. We just pay a wallet to these people, and women don't give a shit. Feminists don't give a shit. Every time I walk around in the city, there's graffiti saying how much men suck and how that we all need to die and that there's a rape culture. And I just hate this fucking city so much. But it looks like it's happening everywhere. In Europe, in America. I care about white people. I care about white identity. And I don't want to see Western societies become multicultural shitholes just because there's no actually a good argument why we should give up our heritage and our culture and our ethnicity for multiculturalism, other than multiculturalism is a strength. Like, yeah, I haven't seen that. It's not a great feeling learning English, speaking English, going through all these schools, getting indoctrinated by Australian culture, liking Australian culture, believing in Australian nationalism, and then walking outside and finding out that you are a minority and your city is becoming a giant Chinatown. Well, that's bad. I want to fight that. I want to stop that or slow it down. And that's why white nationalism is a thing. Now, white nationalism. Why is white nationalism a bad idea or an evil idea or an immoral idea? Do I have the right to choose who I marry? If I want to be just date white girls, is that bad? Is that illegal? Is that immoral if I just want to date white girls? I think everyone would say that's not a problem. Now, how about if I wanted a roommate in this tiny studio apartment? Would it be legal or moral for me to say I only want white people to apply? I have to check the law, but from what I understand, that isn't illegal. So that's like a white nationalism in my room. Well, what about if I built a company and hired an office and I only wanted to hire white people because I prefer white people because I'm a racist piece of shit? I'm a bigoted racist piece of shit. Would that be allowed? No, that's against the law. That's against the racial laws. What about if I build a building and only wanted to fill it with white people? What if I build a gated community and wanted to only have white people in there? What about a town or a village or a city-state or a state or a nation? If you said yes to any of these, then white nationalism is fine. What if people in Europe are sick of being democratically replaced and sick of the vans of peace and seeing their children and nieces splattered against the concrete by peaceful, tolerable Muslims that we should all love and respect? What if they say, we had enough of this, we're going to start a new colony in Australia, there's plenty of land here for new colonies. We're going to work out a deal with the Australian government and settle on the west coast of Western Australia, where there's not much people, and start a white colony there. They should be allowed to do that, right? Homesteading, white people. Well, if you support that, then you support white nationalism. That's not so evil, is it? That's not so Nazi, is it? That's not so white supremacist, is it? That's what white nationalists want. And if someone wants to do that, I support that, and I'd probably join and homestead with it, because I'm sick of this multiculturalist shit. If I had a choice, I'd be sticking with my own kind. And apparently, I'm a bigot, a racist bigot for saying that, and I deserve to have my face smashed in by this communist fucking filth. So a lot of people agree with me, bro. A lot of people feel this diversity push. A lot of people don't like it. I had talks with a lot of YouTubers on my channel, if you haven't noticed, but also my friends and my family, and we're all keen for not having diversity anymore and sticking with our own kind. But that's not allowed. Otherwise, you're called a racist if you support this idea. They're called Brave the World a Nazi. Brave the World a Nazi, her. And she's someone feminist Australian rubbish writer who works for Fairfax did a heat piece on her. Some Sydney, I don't know why a Sydney writer, a journalist is writing about her and calling her a Nazi, unless some Jewish overlord of her forced her to do it or told her to do it. They did the same thing to True Deal Tom. He had a libertarian conference with Rational Rise. I've had both of them on my channel. And they just straight out called him a Nazi, a far-right extremist, for being a libertarian, and talk about anti-leftism. And I think that a bit of racism is racial issues in there as well. They're just calling everyone a Nazi. The only person that hasn't been called a Nazi yet is me. I don't know why. I have to try harder next year. Apparently people haven't seen my Jewish question. But Nazi. Nazi's become the bad term now. Nazi, neo-Nazi, Nazi. And it's funny because I don't think anyone knows what Nazi means. Nazi is National Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. National Socialist Germans Worker Party. Before they were called National Socialist Workers Party, German Workers' Party, they were just called Germans Worker Party. Very proletariat sounding name, German Worker Party. It could almost pass for a socialist movement. But the key word in both of those phrases was German. German Workers' Party. You have to be German. Are Americans German? No, they're Americans. So why the fuck? You gotta be German to be part of the German National Party, because the German National Workers' Party were not pro-white, they were pro-German. They were fighting every single white colony in white empire in Europe. They're fighting against France. They're fighting against England. They're fighting against America. They're fighting against Slavs, if you consider them right, which I do. Literally fighting against every race except for Germans. So if you're not German, don't call people Nazis. It's just not historically accurate. No, it's not about Germans. It's about the policies. Okay, what's the policies? Are any of those people at Charlottesville arguing for pan-Germanism? Because that's the biggest policy, one of the biggest policies they had in the National Socialist Workers' Party. Were people there keen in uniting German people into the Reich? Don't think so. Were people there fighting against the Treaty of Versailles? Because that's the second major policy that they have. No, there's no Treaty of Versailles in America. Are they people there against international capitalism and international communism, international socialism? Probably not. So what are they? They're interested in white people. That's not, Nazis are not interested in white people. They're interested in Germans. So it's just a virtual signaling term, Nazis. And now it's like the media is giving them the green light to bash them, to knock them out, punch them as soon as they see them. They become the new Russians, your own people. People who care about Americanism and white identity and not seeing their own people genocided are called Nazis now. Oh, god damn. And it's sad because I used to identify with that. I used to hate Nazis. I used to think they were scum like everyone else. And I feel horrible that I've been brainwashed in that way, but it's not really my fault. I've just been lied to. The first time I've heard about Nazis is when I was really young. I watched Schindler's List with my mum at a young age, which I shouldn't be doing. But seeing them go through Poland and extracting Jews from the ghetto was really traumatic, especially when they just start killing these people. And yeah, from then on, it's like, these German Nazis are monsters. And it stick with me as a child and had dreams and stuff. It traumatized me. And then there was Indiana Jones, and I loved Indiana Jones, and I loved seeing him beat up Nazis. In the first one and the last one, it's that hero image. It's like, yeah, punch those Nazis. And again, in Wolfenstein, I used to love playing Wolfenstein as a kid, the very old one by id Software. And again, in Day of Defeat, I just had it in my mind that Nazis were the bad guys, just based on those two movies, which was written and produced and directed by the same Jew, by the way, who's also made this entertaining clip. So it's almost like some ethnic group pushing an idea that's saying nationalism, socialism, and being bad people. It's almost like it's done on purpose. Why would they do that? I don't know. Why would they do that? It's almost like they're trying to push a narrative.
All Western countries suffer the same circumstances when we're confronted with this refugee problem. Why are we all faced with this expectation to take in all of these refugees? Just us, not China,
because of care
not
for
Africa.
other human beings?
Care for other human beings.
Because it's the penance we pay for turning away Jewish people when they were trying to flee persecution.
Penance,
It might also
so it's
be
revenge.
our involvement.
Yeah, the only way I got out of that conditioning was working on the Jewish question. And the Jewish question presentation I made almost a year ago now, it seems like a distant memory now, it really gave me red pill after red pill after red pill. The biggest red pill was learning about the Balfour Declaration. Probably the most important document ever produced for Europe in that time period, and that was the first time I've heard about it. And why hasn't anyone told me about the Balfour Declaration? People are going out of the way to tell me about how 6 million Jews died and turned into social landscape, but no one's told me about the Balfour Declaration. Probably the most important document relating to World War I and II and Israel and Jews and the whole Holocaust question. It opened my eyes that there's real historical events that people have lied to me or not been honest about and have been kept from the Goys on purpose, it seemed. So I went ahead and read Volume 1 of Mein Kampf. What a segue. I wanted to read it for the Jewish question, but it was just too long. I didn't have enough time, but I got time now. And I found that if you go to Wikipedia and do a search on Mein Kampf, the first thing I'll say is, this is an anti-Semitic document, which is all about Hitler's anti-Semitism. And there's hardly any Jewish stuff in there. There's only 1 or 2 chapters worth in there. It's mostly about his life, how he viewed Germany, and just autobiography. And there's some stuff about the Jewish question, but not a lot. Not enough to warrant like an anti-Semitic document. It's not that anti-Semitic. If you read Prohorn, which the communists filth when they wave the red and black flags, Prohorn is the most influential writer, ideologue writer there, and he straight out advocates for the genocide of Jews, which is kind of odd, because if anyone's a neo-Nazi, it's these communist people, based on what Proudhon said, but everyone's willing to ignore his anti-Semitism, but they don't give Hitler the same wish. But anyway, it was really entertaining, because I did a lot of research on Hitler and the Jewish question, and Hitler did a lot of research on the Jewish question, and to hear him talk about it from his point of view, while I've already done the research, and hear him talk about it, it's a surreal experience, because you're in his head, and plus listening to all of him talk about everything else. But what most people don't appreciate about Hitler, or what people don't reference, is the title. He was first and foremost not a Führer or the Chancellor, the leader of the German Worker Party, but he was an artist. First and foremost, he was an artist. He thought like an artist, he talked like an artist, he worked like an artist. He drew at a young age, he painted, he loved architecture. He spent his youth in theaters listening to opera. You don't hear like that human side of him. It's always almost like if you admire Hitler, you're almost seen as a neo-Nazi. But he was an artist. And why he saw Soviets or socialism or Marxism as degenerate is because he looked at his art. Why he considered blacks to be inferior is because he looked at his art, their art. Why did he consider Germans to be up there? It's because of their architecture and their art. And it's hard to argue against that, because when you're an artist, you can't fake being an artist. You put your soul into it. And he says that in his book. It says artistry is all about like your God's given gift, a God's gift to you. And you can't hide that. It's based on more of emotion. Nationalistic pride, a sense of spirit, which a lot of people don't have, which a lot of ethnic groups don't have. And a lot of that came in his work. And so it's the reason why he became influential and so powerful is because he was an artist and he knew how to speak to people. And what I also found interesting is his experience in the Great War. So if you don't know the Great War, Germany was an empire then in World War I, and he offered his service. He fought near the front lines for 6 years. And I don't know about you, but I'd probably be shitting myself if I'd be fighting in the Great War, if you're fighting with German, in the German front, because when you're German, you're fighting against literally the whole fucking world. The Great War, you're fighting the whole world against you. So you're outnumbered, you're outmatched, you don't have a territory like they do. They have limited resources, but they pushed on. And not only did they push on, they stared into the face of death and just kept going, but they sung songs, they sung nationalistic songs, German songs, they just keep pushing, and they earned victory after victory after victory. They were winning. Until the stab of the back happened. And the stab in the back, they considered not a good victory, like a dirty victory. They would have been happy if they lost, they had a good loss. But because they were backstabbed by socialist groups and there was strikes in the ammunition factories and German people and Jews in Germany were acting against them so they can end the empire. That's what killed him spiritually. To have all his comrades and patriots die in machine gun fire and have his eyes blown from mustard gas, And hearing that his empire fell to make way from a social democratic system, he cried and he wept for days, according to his memoirs. And how am I supposed to hate someone like that? How am I supposed to hate someone who loves his country, who fought for his country, who mourned for it once it fell? I can't. And I hate that I've been purposely lied to paint this image that this guy just is a complete monster, and he... Things are not what they seem. Anyway, I remember reading as well on the Jewish question that about his dogs. I wanted more information on his dogs, and I went to some Jewish site and it said the reason why Hitler posed with his dogs all the time is because he wanted to paint an image that he liked animals, to hide the horrors of him doing the Holocaust. And it's like, you son of a bitches. You can't just let him have his dogs. You can't just have Hitler loving his dogs. You just have to put a spin to it. Anyway. Hitler is Hitler, though. He's not going to let that get in his way. So, he was great at public speaking. When he joined German's Worker Party, there was only 7 people in his group. And it reminds me a lot of Toastmasters, because when I did Toastmasters, I gave speeches to about politics in beer gardens or beer halls or RSL clubs. But because Hitler was an artist, he was a naturally public gifted speaker. Now, I've done Toastmasters for 2-3 years, and I've never seen someone just nail it first go. It usually takes a few months to get someone into a good grind or a momentum. It takes a long time to get good because there's a lot of skills involved. But Hitler just came up and did it the first go, and it was a natural, and people loved him day one. How the fuck is someone that good? You can't. Like, I've watched finalists, and people have been doing it for years, but and I've never seen anyone like whip up an audience to a frenzy the way Hitler was supposedly could do. And that was the secret of his success. And his group turned from 7 to 9 to a dozen to 30 until he had to replace the beer halls because it was getting so small. And he created a movement within 1 season. Now you compare that to like Stefan Molyneux or anyone on the internet. They've been doing it for years and they still haven't made anything real. Closest thing we got was Unite the Right, and it ended in a bit of a fiasco. Oh my god. But I think you should, if you guys are serious about this, I think you should read Mein Kampf and his topics on propaganda and his experience in National Socialist Workers' Party in those beer halls. It would be good if you're trying to create a movement, a more forceful movement, because people don't listen to reason. It's not about reason. It's not about rationally explaining things and philosophy like I used to think it was. It's about finding people who are dissatisfied, who are unhappy, and inspiring them to be part of a movement, be part of a family. And it's not hard to find people on the sidelines who are unhappy and have lost their way, because white genocide is real, boys, sorry to say, and it sucks. The only thing bad I can say about Hitler, reading his book, is the whole Lebensraum thing. He was very clear in his book that he wanted to invade Russia or the East for soil, so they don't starve. Germany doesn't have a starving problem. If anything, they're feeding foreigners who don't belong in Germany very easily, and they're just not facing famines over there because Hitler didn't understand economics, and thought he had to grow everything in his own. Germany mostly imports all their food now. They don't have much of a farming industry over there. They import stuff. And if Hitler understood economy, if you just read a bit of Mises, I think the Reich might still be here today, to the detriment of Germany. But unfortunately, the whole world declared war on them, including America. You know, it pisses me off to see Americans going, "We kick their asses. We punch Nazis." It's hard to respect those people because, yeah, congratulations, you invaded a country that was fighting 5 nations at the time, at the once. They were weakened. The most powerful country on earth. They were fighting against Germany, which was small. And Germany was fighting against Russia. And literally the whole world. Congratulations, America. You destroyed Germany. And now Germany is not Germany anymore, but a multicultural mess, full of dead kids on the sidewalks. And also strengthened Russia and gave the Soviets half of Europe. And the Cold War became a thing for decades. And it almost ended in a nuclear devastation and a fallout world. Thanks, America. You really did a great job. Can you imagine if America just joined Germany and defeated the Soviets, what would look like the world would look like now? No Cold War, no red expansions, no Bolsheviks, no Soviet Union. Oh, one can only dream. Fortunately, they didn't, and now we got this mess, and now literally everyone's a Nazi who's a right wing. Great job, America. So, why is Hitler hated? I mean, Hitler's hated a lot. Is it because he was mean? Is it because of his right-wing terror? I think it's pretty reasonable. I'd rather be a Jew in Germany during that time than a Republican in Spain after Franco won the war. If you want to talk about right-wing terror, Francesco Franco did a lot of terrible things you don't want to know about. That's hidden in history. And some of the stuff I read about, it's like, holy shit, it just goes too far. Right-wing death squads, try right-wing rape squads. Christianity and Francesco Franco, the Phalange, got together and commissioned the Moors and Arab groups to go around and literally rape the women to death who supported the Republican government. And that's something I can't really support there, even though I despise communists. I draw the line at state-endorsed rape. But you never hear about that. You never hear about the right terror campaigns. I don't think most of those people in Boston and Charlottesville probably haven't even heard of Francesco Franco because there's not many Jews who made movies about Francesco Franco. There's only 3 movies about Spanish Civil War I could find in my presentation. Well, there's no shortages of footages I found for the Holocaust, for the Jewish question. So propaganda works. Propaganda works really, really well. The Jews know this, and liberals know this. And I think the right wing should learn that as well. And I'm doing my bit to help in whatever way I can with that. But yeah, you don't hear about Francesco Franco like you did about Hitler. And why is that? Because Hitler was that good. Hitler was such a good of an artist. He had that much of a power on branding and influence and culture that people still talk about him, fear him, respect him, decades after his death. I don't think he predicted that. He might have, I don't know. It's hard to foresee that kind of stuff. But he was that good. And the essence, and I think it's bad that people are copying what he's done and not copying the essence of what he is. It's Nazi, the power of that imagery and National Socialism and why people like hate swastikas and that. It's that's the echo of his essence, his artistry. You have to capture what he's feeling, what he's thinking, and the vision he had for his nation, and he emulated that into a brand, which was National Socialism. He was like into advertising and marketing before advertising and marketing was a thing. Because that's what his life was about. He was an artist. He wrote postcards, and he thought in that way, and he loved architecture, and he expressed that in his political career. And you have to read Mein Kampf to really get this, because he uses metaphors. He wrote like an artist. So I think Americans should learn from that. People on the right, people who unite the right, I think you should embrace that kind of branding. Not the swastikas, but Americanism. There's a lot of things better than National Socialism, and that's Americanism. I happen to think that America is the greatest country in the world as an Australian. We get so like rock and roll, you freed the slaves, the American expansionists, the colonial times, Gilded Age. There's a lot of things to be proud of about America. And you should be using that culture, that history in your movement. If you, I think the best place for that is BioShock Infinite. Pretty much echoes of what's going on in America at the moment. So they got the two groups. The Founders, I think they're called, the Founders versus the Vox Populi. And the Founders were the early Americans. They embraced George, the Founding Fathers, Christianity, and whiteness, while the opposite group were communist agitators, embraced anarcho-syndicalism, and had like Black Lives Matter elements into it as well. The only difference is, in BioShock Infinite, they had slavery, while as current America don't have slavery. So I don't know what the fuck they're whinging about. I mean, they're doing the same thing here in Australia. They're trying to guilt white people, even though we didn't have a civil war here. We didn't have slavery here. We had frontier wars, but nothing like a civil war in America. But they still push the same narrative. It's almost like it's coordinated by certain interest groups. So yeah, I think following the brand of early America, the Stars and Stripes, even having that single star, and if you could all have that branding, I think it'd be a much more powerful base. I think you should drop the race elements, because it's not really about race, is it? I mean, if you're in a helicopter with that KT and libertarian social rants, and you're an ANCAP with white nationalist tendencies, who you got to push out the helicopter? I'm hoping everyone will say libertarian social rants and not that KT, even though that KT is black, because who cares? Race is not that important if you're intelligent and smart and believe in the same shit we believe in. And that's the American experience, American story. Now, the final thing to touch upon is I think it's a really scary time for everyone because they're really clamping down on free speech. The way digital companies and digital conglomerates just banned everyone at the same time. They've banned Christopher Cantwell from everything. They banned Red Ice. They took away PayPal and Stripe access to most people. It's like it's only a matter of time. I don't want to be, because I use these services in my private business, and I don't want, like, just talking about race. I don't want to be blacklisted just because I'm talking about race. Like, Australia isn't really caught up in this fucking shit. Americans, like, we don't have a liberal problem like America does, or a communist problem yet. I don't want to see my shit taken offline just because I care about Europe and white identity. Is that okay with you, liberals in San Francisco, you pathetic little fucking cucks? Can I trust you into not taking my shit down, please, because you don't like what I say? I don't know what the end game is, but everyone's a fucking Nazi now these days, and it's open season on them, even though they don't know what it is. It's not historically accurate. And it's just like every time I go onto Twitter these days, it's just something more awful. Digging up corpses, putting down statues. I've seen bats with a die Nazi on it, or hit punch Nazis or fall Nazis. It's like, who the fuck are these Nazis? Right-wingers? People who stand behind Trump? This is going to end bad, isn't it? Something like this, I'm glad I'm in Australia. I'm so glad I'm in Australia. But in another 200 years, or 100 years, I think Australia is going to be following the same path unless we embrace nationalism here, which a lot of right-wing groups are doing. So you guys aren't alone. We Australian alt-righters are following what Americans are doing, and we're learning from you guys, and we're supporting you guys. And we back you 100% of the way. Along with Japan and other places, we don't want to see a communist takeover in America, believe me. I think that's everything. That is everything. Yes. So, I wish they were wrong. I wish I was wrong. I still miss that blue pill sometimes. But then I miss out on some fun stuff. Like, I got notifications on my phone from Google saying, it's from Charlottesville, saying, right-wing extremists shouting, Jews will not replace us. It's just like, it's amazing. And if I was still blue pilled, I'd be going, what the fuck is going on in America? But now I know. And it's awesome. Oh man, exciting times. But exciting times, not that great. I'd rather boring times sometimes. Boring times is better. Alright, so I've got another batch to go, but I've got nothing to talk about anymore. I'm working on my System Shock presentation. I've been updating a lot of the arguments and doing a redoing. It's about deep learning. We're going to include some of that shit. And it's going to be a nice break from the original shit. And I'm sure you guys will enjoy it if you enjoy my first one. But yeah. I'd like to end with a little reading from Civil War II, written by a mercenary who fought in the Bosnian Wars, who predicted a civil war in America in our lifetimes based on ethnicity. Simply and directly put, America will explode in tribal warfare in our lifetime and shatter into several new ethnically based nations. And as America breaks up the very concept of a multi-ethnic democracy, will likely be forever shattered. Artillery will blast our cities into flaming wastelands infested with psychotic snipers. Packs of feral dogs will tear up at charred corpses hanging out of burnt-out tanks. Long columns of doomed refugees will clog our highways. Bands of guerrillas will stalk about the countryside, raping, looting, murdering, clashing with each other. Food production will all but cease. The hungry will fight to the death over scraps of garbage. Millions will starve, and millions more will die from infectious diseases. Behold the vision of Civil War II. That's what Americans have to look forward to if commie feel labeling everyone a Nazi. Because when everyone is called a Nazi, then nobody's a Nazi.
When one looks at this creature, one doesn't assume that he was either an imbecile or a madman. No, what he was something different. And it was the reason that he lost the war. He was an indefatigable, unregenerative Nazi. Thank you very much indeed.